start when I'm done taking attendance. You have 2.5 minutes left. Great, you have 90 seconds. For those of you guys that just joined, we are working on our do now. One more minute on the do now. Yes, the do now is the multiple choice. Go ahead and take the next 25 seconds to get as far as you can, and then I will go over the answers, and then we will lead into today's activity. Great, I'm gonna go over the answers to the do now, then do a couple rollouts, and then we will get started on today's activity. Okay, number 1 is D. Number 2 is B. Number 3 is B. Number 4 is A. And number 5 is D. Do we have any questions about that?
What's number 2 again?
Number 2 is B. Any other questions? Great. Okay, so before we get started on today's activity, which is document analysis, I want to remind you guys, because I realized I didn't roll this out very clearly yesterday in regards to how our participation quiz grade is going to work. So during our do now, every single day, I will be putting in your attendance. So if you are not in the Zoom call by 10:05, you will be getting an 80% instead of a 100% because you are late. So if you're in between 10 to 10:05, you get a 100% for the attendance that day. If you arrive after 10:05, it automatically drops to an 80%. Second, I have a predetermined cold call list of who I am going to cold call during the class today. If you are not here and you do not explain to me why you weren't here and give an excuse, and that is the day that I decided to cold call you, you are still going to get a 0. If you have an excused absence, I will decide a different day for when to cold call you. So for example, yesterday when I cold called Naziah and she gave me a very thorough answer, she automatically got a 100% for being here that day. All that is required for you to get a 100% for a cold call, which is going to happen twice a week, is for you to try your best and thoroughly answer your question. The question that I asked you. If there is an issue with your mic, you can chat me the question, but you need to let me know at the very beginning of class that you're having mic issues in case I decide to cold call you that day. So again, you need to state, hey, Ms. Wild, I'm having issues with my mic. If you cold call me today, I'm going to have to type my answer, and that's completely fine, but you need to let me know ahead of time. So again, going off of what I said about yesterday, because Naziah had a thorough cold call answer yesterday, she currently has a 100% for cold calls. If I decide to call on her today or tomorrow and she does that again, she's going to have a 100%, and that in addition to her attendance for throughout the week, she will have an easy 100% quiz grade. Sorry, I just saw that I got something in the chat. Thank you, Malachi, for letting me know. So Malachi just let me know that his internet connection is unstable, so he might not be able to respond to me right away. So that's the type of proactive communication I'm talking about. I just gave you guys a lot about attendance and everything like that. Please raise your hand if you have any questions. Yes, Eddie. Eddie, I can't hear you. Yes, and you do need to be in the call for the whole time. If I see that people have left before I've said, for those of you guys that were here yesterday, because we finished a little early, I was like, you guys can finish the packet and go. So some people were able to leave early, but until I end the call at 10:50, you unless I tell you you can leave early, you are required to be there the whole time. Yes, Sade.
If you do not call on us that day, does it affect our grades too?
Nope. So for example, because yesterday, Jade, similarly to what I said about Naziah, because I cold called you yesterday and you gave a thorough answer, you're sitting at a 100%. But if I don't cold call you today, you are getting the 100% for attending, but it's not going to affect your grade negatively that I decided not to cold call you today. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, and Tisa.
Depending on the question you ask, if we don't know the answer, but we still persevere, does that still count?
Absolutely. I'm not grading you guys based off of if the answer is 100% correct. So I might push and say like, so let's say, Tisa, I ask you a question and you don't answer it 100%. I might give you a follow-up question that makes you reevaluate your answer. But as long as you like try, that's a 100%. Unless it's like a really obvious, like if I ask you guys what year was the Declaration of Independence signed and you don't say that, and you say something other than like 1776, I'm gonna have some questions.
I didn't even know that. Who was the first president? James Madison.
Okay, Madison, stop. No, so like what I'm saying is there are some exceptions to the rule. So like, for example, today I'm going to be giving a I do as a model for you guys, and I'm going to be giving you guys very clear steps on how to do it. If I cold call somebody and say, what is step 2? And you don't know what I'm talking about, that's going to negatively affect your participation grade, because if you were taking the notes, you would be able to answer that. But if I ask you guys a content question like, what is the major, like number 3, what's the major consequence of the French and Indian War? And you guess, and you don't have a thorough answer, but you tried, that is fine. Does the difference between those two things make sense?
Yes.
Yes. Great. Okay, and I think that was all of the questions. Isis.
So are you just cold calling the whole time, or are we allowed to answer questions?
So I'm going to be cold calling until I get through my list and say like, and make sure that I have everybody so that way I can count their participation. And then after that, I'll do a mixture of cold call and jump in. Today is not a discourse day at all. So there isn't really a time for you guys to be able to like jump in. Today is a lot of practicing and just going through things step by step. Yes, Cedric.
If you answer somebody else question, do you get the point?
No. So basically, if I do a cold call and let's say I ask Nazaya a question and she doesn't answer it completely, I would go to the next name on my list and ask them to try at that question until I get through all of the cold calls. So I will prompt you guys as a class and say like, okay, please raise your hand if you think you can answer this question, but I'll make it really clear that I'm cold calling. So I'll make it clear when you can cold call versus when you can jump in. Okay, great. Okay, so that is all of the steps and what's going to be required for your participation / quiz grade at the end of every week. So now we're going to move into today's activity. So in your guys' class packet, or if you guys are taking notes on separate pieces of paper, okay, Jade just asked a question if we were going to have to do lecture notes. Today, we do not have a lecture. Today is pure practice. So you guys do need to either take notes on what I'm doing on your class document or on a separate piece of paper and upload that as well. But the rest of the class period is you guys practicing. So you guys should be able to take notes directly on this. It's not that many notes today. Okay. So today we are going to do some re-practicing of annotating documents and primary sources, because for your AP exam, you are going to be annotating, you're going to be annotating 5 documents and writing a DBQ. So today we are going to practice on that and try to figure out, make sure that we are hitting the key steps that are the most effective for your time. So today I'm going to be going through the steps that we've been doing basically all year, but I'm going to show the ways that we can do it in the effective 2 minutes that we should be spending on each document. So in your class packet, I want you to follow along. There's a place where it says steps and questions right here. This is where you guys can be taking your class notes. If you're doing it in the packet, if not, just do it on your piece of paper. So there are going to be 5 steps that I take for annotating a document. The first one is going to feel very obvious. I am going to read the source line, read and annotate the source line. So step 1, read and annotate the source line to try to figure out what this primary source is telling me. So first, I noticed that it is a teapot made in England. So on this POV, because I can't annotate directly on this document. So for my POV, I know that this is somebody from England during English colonialism in North America. Based off of this date that it's somebody, since I know it's somebody in England between 1766 and 1770. And then it describes the teapot for me, which says no Stamp Act. And on the other side, America, liberty restored. So I'm going to scroll down to my historical context. I can think of a lot of things that I can put in my historical context. First is clearly the Stamp Act, because that's listed directly onto the teapot. The other one I can think of is end of salutary neglect. 1766, I know that's at the end, that's after the French and Indian War. Proclamation of 1763, which goes with end of salutary neglect. And then I can think of all the other acts like the Tea Act, Sugar Act, Quartering Act.
Can you move it, please?
Is that better? Can everybody see my screen okay, where they can see the notes that I'm taking?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, here, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. Thank you for letting me know, Cedric, that you couldn't see it very well.
No problem.
Okay, so Sugar Act, Quartering Act, and I'm thinking of something else. Teapots, what happens with tea? Oh wait, the Boston Tea Party. Okay, that is a lot for historical context, so I think I'm gonna leave it there. My next step is read and annotate the document for claim. Give you guys a moment to write that down. So because this is a teapot and not like a traditional primary source, I don't really have a lot to grab for the claim because it's written on the teapot. Stop the Stamp Act and pro-England. But what I realize about this is that this is from an English point of view that wants to side with the American colonists. That's a really big detail. I would expect a teapot like this to be made in America, but the fact that it's getting made in England, that's definitely going to be an important detail that I should keep in mind when I get down to my sense and significance statement. Which leads me to my third step, which is what we know is just choosing the best corner. So I'm gonna scroll down so that way you guys can see and I don't need to look at the teapot anymore. So looking at, get ready, I'm gonna cold call. So be prepared to hear your name. Looking at our corners, we have the POV, which is just an anonymous person from England, and we have a vague time period, versus the historical context where I came up with like 6 or 7 key terms without even trying. Which of these corners is going to be best for me for writing my sense statement? Nyasia.
The best thing for your sense statement would be the, wait, what's the question? What's the overall question?
We don't have a question, just based off of the document and how much information we have for historical context versus how little information we have for POV, which is going to be a better corner for a sense statement.
Historical context.
Beautiful, thank you. I'm going to pause my modeling real quick. That is what it's going to look like when I cold call. So because Nyasia gave a thorough answer and asked for a follow-up clarity question, she's getting a 100%. She has a check mark next to her name, which I'll put into my tracker later. Okay, back to the modeling. So we need to choose our best corner. And as Nyasia said, we're going to choose historical context. And sorry. So now that I have my best corner, I lost my place. I'm going to write my since statement. And the way that I'm going to model writing a since statement now versus what we've done in the past is I'm going to show you guys how to do it quickly while still effectively getting a since statement drafted for when you go to write your DBQ. So for historical context, I know I'm going to look at for the since statement, I know I'm going to look at historical context. So I'm going to write that corner down. And now I'm going to look at my since statement and say, like, okay, it's the end of salutary neglect. Other acts are happening. So I'm just going to say, it makes sense that some were against taxes because it showed an end to salutary neglect. It's not perfectly written, but it's me pointing out my historical context and specifically the aspect of salutary neglect that I want to talk about to emphasize why this document was created in the first place. Remember, our since statement is specifically focusing on a corner and justifying why a document was written or created in the way that it was in the first place. Okay. Which takes me to my final step, which is writing my significance statement. We don't have an overarching question for today because we're not doing discourse, we're just practicing with documents. So my significance statement isn't answering a question, it's just coming up with the general significance of the document. And this is going to tie back into up here, where I thought about the claim of our document. So for me, I'm gonna tie my significance statement to the claim of the document, which is basically just like, this shows that there were some English citizens who sided with Americans' independence. That seems pretty significant to me. Great, okay. I am going to give you guys 30 more seconds to finish writing down those steps in case you did not have the chance to finish. Great, now I'm gonna do a quick round of cold call. Scroll up, won't give it away. What is my first step, Kezia?
Your first step was that you read and annotated the source.
Beautiful. What was my second step, Isis?
To read and annotate the document.
Beautiful. My third step, Eddie? What's up, Ariana?
My bad. Yeah. Wait, can I answer or are we waiting for your response?
No, go ahead. Eddie, what's my third step? What is my third step, Yamani?
You choose the best corner.
Beautiful. My fourth step, Tisa.
Would it be to do the significant statement?
Is my fourth my significance or my since statement?
I believe since statement.
There we go.
Okay.
And Eddie, I'm coming back to you. What is my fifth step?
Is it the significant statement?
Yes, significant statement is the last one that we do. Beautiful. So that is going to be an example of how, again, that is me modeling what the getting the participation point is going to be. My cold calls are going to be me just making sure that you're engaged with the material and taking down the notes that you're going to be graded on. Great. So now we're going to go into a round of you do practice. And you guys are going to take 3 minutes silent solo. Oh, 2 minutes silent solo. Let me give you guys 3. To annotate this document quickly, follow those steps and get these 4. So you need to follow those 5 steps, but what I'm going to be looking for and asking about are these annotations, the POV, the historical contents, sense, and significance statement. So take 3 minutes to complete, and then we are going to jump in to talk about it. So 3 minute silent solo on this first document. Go ahead. $50 more seconds. $15 more seconds. Perfect. Okay, so there are going to be a couple more cold calls, so just be prepared to be cold called on document number 1. Okay. What is the most important thing, or what did you think was the most important thing that you pulled out of the source line, Serge?
The date.
The date. Awesome. And what does the date tell you?
time period. I don't know.
No, that's fine. Do you what war was going during 1862?
Wasn't it the Civil War?
Thank you, Malachi. Malachi, that is a merit. Let me write that down. I need a way to track that. Beautiful. Great. Looking at, now I'm gonna let us jump in. So just please raise your hand when I answer a question, just so that way we're not speaking over each other, because we just have a couple minutes to do this. What is the POV? What do we think is important about the POV? Erica.
He's anti-slavery.
Slavery. I'm also going to add that he's a general. Like, that's pretty important. What about our historical context, going off of that date that Serge told us about? Ariana.
I said it was like the Fugitive Slave Act.
If you guys can do me a favor, after you raise your hand and I call on you, if you can please lower your hand so that way it clears up my screen. Build on that, Nyasha.
The confiscation.
Great. And is there anything that you would like to add, Erica?
No.
Okay. Just want to make sure. And then going off of what Malachi said, this is during the Civil War. Which of these corners is going to be the most important for since statements? I'll take a hand. Naziah.
I said the most important would be the historical context, because it would make sense that he's using the Fugitive Slave Act to benefit the Union more within the Civil War, because he wants the free Negroes to come and help the Union fight against the seceded states.
Beautiful. Madison, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say you could also use the POV because it shows he has a bias. Like he's automatically, he's a general anti-slavery,
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is a document where, thank you, Madison, for pointing out that you can use both sides, where both corners that you could use a since statement for are going to have different types of benefits. So this is one where I would say use the corner that you can best justify. And I think you guys did a great job of pointing that out. I know that we do not have a question to answer with the SIG statement. What would we use for the SIG base? How would you guys maybe write a significant statement about this? Just pointing out why it's important.
Can we just go? Oh, do we raise our hands?
You're fine, Madison, you can answer.
Okay, I was gonna say, but there's no really question, but if I was using POV, I would say since he is from the North and he opposes slavery, it makes sense that, he would want to, blah, 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 whatever the question is, get rid of it. Well, I don't know what he's trying to do, but.
Mm-hmm.
You can use it because there's like the debate on whether the Civil War was about abolishing slavery or was it to benefit them.
Mm-hmm.
Did you stop sharing your screen or something? No, I see it. Okay.
Great. So what we're going to do, because today we went a little bit over with the relaunching everything, I don't want to push you guys over time. So what we're going to do is we're going to split this in half. I want you guys to take I'm only going to be looking at annotations for documents 2 and 3. So you're just doing documents 2 and 3, and I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes to do that. So 5 minutes, 2 and 3. We're gonna come back for a round of questions, and then you guys are gonna get started on your exit ticket. Does that make sense? Awesome. Okay, so 5 minutes on the clock for documents 2 and 3. If you guys have any questions, you can chat them to me. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. So 5 minutes to do documents 2 and 3. When I grade these, I won't look at documents 4 and 5, and then we're gonna use the last 5 minutes to work on our exit ticket. Great, so I'm gonna put up the, I'm gonna leave these notes available for document 1 for just a few minutes, for like 2 minutes in case anybody missed them. 5 minutes on the clock, documents 2 and 3, go ahead and get started. If you have questions about documents 2 and 3, you can chat them to me. You have just under 3 minutes left. 20 more seconds. Great. So if you were following AP timing, you should have had all of your annotations done on documents 2 and 3. Make sure those annotations are done before you submit the document, because I am going to be looking at in terms of your packet completion. If you guys met that AP pacing and got those 2 documents done, you can go ahead and transition to your exit ticket. We are going to spend the last 5 minutes working on the exit ticket, where I can specifically answer the questions about the exit ticket. I will be grading this for quality based off of these 4 annotations: your POV, your historical context, and your sense and significance statement. We're going to stay on Zoom and doing this for the next 5 minutes. If you have any questions, chat them to me. If you finish before 10:50 and I see that you've submitted it on Google Classroom, you are free to go, but check in with me before you leave the chat. So go and transition to the exit ticket if you have not done so yet. Yes, the exit ticket is document 6, the last page.